As a child, I wanted to do a lot of things. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an ice cream truck man. But one of my most salient yet unrealized dreams was to consume the peculiar provisions in the snack aisle of TJ Maxx. If you didn't have the privilege of pillaging through the TJ Maxx pantry aisle in the mid to late 2000s, here's an idea of what you might find. Gourmet white pepper potato chips, artisanal elderflower gummy bears, pink Himalayan salt before you knew salt could be pink, chocolate-covered pretzels that expired 10 years ago, and if you were really lucky, a sleek cylindrical tube of water. As intriguing as all these snacks seemed, what I wanted the most was the water. I wasn't concerned with health, I was preoccupied with something far more important, looking cool. And this was what I needed to get there. To call it a bottle of water would be a mistake. It was more than that. It was a vessel. It was tall, glass, and printed on the side in a sexy sans serif font were 4 letters. VOSS. Voss. I didn't know what the hell it meant, but I knew I wanted it. It wasn't just water, it was a statement. I imagined how cutting edge I'd seem showing up to school in the midst of Poland spring-carrying plebeians with fancy foreign water. I would be the talk of the town thanks to my elevated hydration choice. Upon asking my parents if they would indulge in my fantasy for the low cost of $4.99, my dreams were dashed. All water is the same, I was told, and for a long time, I did not believe it. If it was expensive, it had to be better, right? Bottled water, I've since learned, is one of the greatest marketing ploys to be pulled off by an industry. Companies convinced millions of people that water was a genie that could solve all your wellness problems if only you drank it from a sleekly designed bottle. To be clear, I'm not anti-water. I love water. It's good for you. We all need it to survive. At least in the United States, everyone, everywhere is trying to be hydrated all at once. We're told that drinking water makes you more beautiful, smarter, and younger looking.
The best beauty tip I've ever received was to drink a gallon of water every day.
The only drink I drink is water. I only drink water.
Oh my goodness.
I can't believe you can do that. Look at this. It just completely wakes up my digestive tract.
Yummy.
But this is a relatively recent phenomenon. Believe it or not, there was a time in human history when people weren't gallivanting through the streets with gallons of water in hand. And while science clearly shows that drinking water is good for you, marketing has taken our cultural obsession with hydration to another level. Bottled water initially made a splash in the US because of its snob appeal. Early on, it was linked closely to celebrities and eventually trickled down to the masses. Out of all the unique, harmful, and downright weird endorsement deals that celebrities have, I want to talk about water. I know what you're thinking. Why not choose something we can all rally around to hate, like flat tummy tea or appetite suppressing lollipops? Because I love a challenge. But seriously, in the past year, there's been this trend of food as luxury. Think the grocery store Erewhon and its viral $20 smoothies. Yes, I went there when I went to LA, and I got the smoothie because you know I can't resist an overpriced silly little beverage. But the point is, the luxurification of food would not be possible without the luxurification of something even more basic: water. As innocuous as it may seem, there are environmental and social costs to water, specifically bottled water, so I think it's important to be critical of big water and its messaging. What I primarily want to unpack is the intersection of water and celebrity. How could an essentially free public resource become so glamorized? So in today's video, I want to explore how drinking water became a status symbol. Before we get into that though, I'd like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this portion of the video. Therapy has been such an important part of my life in the past year. I've dealt with external obstacles and challenges that were difficult for me to talk about, and going to therapy gave me the space to do that. It is truly the Planet Fitness of the mind in that it is a judgment-free zone. It has been so cathartic for me to go to therapy and have someone who is listening to me. It makes me feel a lot less alone. And if you're like me and really good at compartmentalizing, it might not seem like therapy is something you need, but therapy has added so much to my life because it's allowed me to not hold everything in. So if this sounds like you and you want to get started on your therapy journey, the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp, is a great option for you. They connect you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/AmandaMariana. After answering a few questions, you'll usually be matched with a licensed therapist in about 48 hours. You can connect with your therapist in the way that makes you feel most comfortable, whether it's messaging, phone call, or video chat. If therapy is something you want to explore, use my link, betterhelp.com/AmandaMariana, or choose Amanda Mariana during sign up, and you'll get a special discount on your first month. Back to big water. It is not lost on me that I'm making this video about bottled water when reusable water bottles are making more noise than you dropping that goddamn Hydro Flask. Americans are obsessed with reusable water bottles. There's even whole content niches dedicated to them, like Pack My Stanley, in which 40-ounce water jugs are transformed into airport-ready carry-ons. This specific video, I am convinced, is rage bait. Who is doing this? Where are you going? Because you can't call it a water bottle if it contains the contents of an entire tote bag. Me personally, I am proud to say that I have not fallen victim to the micro-trendification of water bottles. I can't recall the last time I purchased a water bottle. It seems that every swag bag I've received has some sort of drinking vessel in it, so those are the water bottles I use. To me, water bottles are like the handheld equivalent of those big t-shirts you sleep in. You didn't buy them, you don't particularly like them, but they get the job done. While the reusable water bottle industry is booming, plastic bottled water is still a lot more popular. I want to acknowledge that in many countries, bottled water is a necessity due to a lack of reliable and safe tap water. Despite most Americans having access to affordable and safe tap water, we are still one of the countries with the highest bottled water consumption. In richer nations where clean tap water tends to be widely available, bottled water is often seen as something of a luxury purchase, regarded as healthier and tastier than tap water. The US is the proverbial land of milk and honey when it comes to tap water, but big water has convinced so many people that it's not good enough, especially celebrities. In a 2021 piece for W Magazine, Brooke Marine detailed the rise of Essentia water as a status symbol amongst celebs, from Sarah Paulson to Rami Youssef to the Kardashians. In the article, she speaks with Kazumi Mechling, Essentia's head of corporate communications, who tells her that Essentia rarely used paid advertising until 2014. Before that, the brand was almost entirely dependent upon a word-of-mouth strategy, with early adopters like athletes and performers seeking out what Mechling called functional water that does more for them. It's crazy, not just with the Kardashians, but the whole entertainment set. There were so many celebrities that just told each other about it. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention celebrity riders and their ultra-specific water requests. I've seen this firsthand. One time I was like PAing on a commercial shoot, and I was like the PA in charge of like putting the stuff in the green room that the talent requested. And these people told me, they were like, listen, this man can only be seen drinking Essentia water and nothing else. That's what needs to be in the green room. If any non-Essentia water enters that green room, you're dead. It's so funny how seriously these celebrity requests are taken, and trust and believe, if I ever get to be a celebrity, I'm gonna be a menace about that shit. And honestly, I think they do it just to see if you listen to them. I don't think they actually really care. Anyway, this kind of word-of-mouth organic strategy is similar to what put fancy bottled water in the hands of celebrities in the mid-2000s. Coincidentally, it's connected to the Kardashians via Kim's longtime BFF, Jonathan Cheban, aka Food God. If you were watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians back in the day, you know. Cheban was a New York club rat in the early aughts when he befriended the likes of Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie before they were famous. His celebrity-fueled Rolodex helped his founding of a PR firm at the ripe age of 25, and he became a broker of clout, connecting clients like restaurants and clubs with celebrities who could bring in buzz. Okay, Dr. Seuss. Soon enough, corporate clients were lured into the firm's flashy orbit. By 2005, Evian Water solicited his services and put him to the task of making their water seem cool. Before I get into that story, though, I want to set the stage of where bottled water began, at least in the United States, and that is Saratoga Springs, New York. In the 18th century, natural mineral springs were discovered in the US and celebrated for their purported health benefits. Saratoga Springs was one of the most famous of these early water sources. Yes, upstate New York is known for many natural beauties, waterfalls, mountains, natural springs, and me. I am from upstate New York, the part where snow isn't a cute aesthetic, it's a problem. I grew up going to Saratoga Spa State Park, where you can actually drink the mineral water, and I tried it, but I always thought it was nasty. To be fair, my taste buds definitely hadn't developed back then. I didn't even like olives at that time, so could I really be trusted? But if you've tasted that water, you know it kind of has a funk to it, like an aged cheese or something. But the appeal of natural spring water had less to do with its flavor and more to do with the alleged health benefits. In the 18th century, bottled water was marketed as a curative product, believed to have healing properties due to its mineral content. Wealthy individuals would travel to these springs or have the water shipped to them in the belief that it could cure ailments ranging from digestive issues to skin conditions. Throughout the 19th century, the popularity of bottled mineral water grew, and numerous companies began to pop up around natural springs across the country. During this period, bottled water was still considered a luxury item, accessible primarily to the upper classes. Ironically, one of these companies was Poland Springs, which is now considered a pretty pedestrian water brand. Fun fact, the guy who discovered Poland Springs saw the opportunity to market water not just as a beverage, but a lifestyle, because in 1876, he opened the Poland Springs House, a 350-room hotel that became a popular destination for the social and political elite. The hotel included a barbershop, dance and photography studios, pool room, music hall, and dining facilities. You name it, they had it. The resort became known for its curative powers, and people would visit to drink the water. In 1860, a physician from Portland even began prescribing Poland water to patients to treat ailments like Bright's disease and kidney stones. Can you imagine shelling out the $25 copay to be told, drink water? I would simply riot. The rise of the temperance movement in the late 1800s, which advocated for the reduction of alcohol consumption, also contributed to the increased popularity of bottled water, as it was seen as a pure and healthy alternative to alcoholic beverages. The early 20th century saw significant advancements in water treatment and public water systems, leading to the widespread availability of clean, safe drinking water. As a result, the demand for bottled water declined, and it became less of a necessity for those seeking pure drinking water. However, the industry found new ways to market its product, focusing on convenience, purity, and taste.
How did we get to the point where we're paying for bottled water? That must have been some weird marketing meeting over in France, you know? Some French guy was sitting there, he's like, how dumb do I think the Americans are?
So unfortunately, he was right. Perrier, a French brand of sparkling mineral water, was introduced to the US market in the 1970s and became synonymous with sophistication and a healthy lifestyle. The company capitalized on a shift in consumer attitudes towards health and fitness, which coincided with a growing interest in bottled water as a health-conscious choice. It helped to establish bottled water as a mainstream product in the United States, and much of its success was attributed to marketing. In 1976, Perrier set up shop in New York, and CEO Gustave Levin teamed up with Bruce Nevins, a marketing executive who had just left Levi Strauss. Back then, Levin's idea of making Perrier a hit in America was met with a lot of doubt. The big question everyone was asking was simple: why would anyone pay for water when they could just get it for free? At the time, the only water people bought came in big jugs for home and office coolers. Many thought Perrier wouldn't change that. Even our favorite evil consulting firm, McKinsey, did a study and predicted that sparkling French water didn't stand a chance in the US market. Nevins himself wasn't sold on the idea right away, but once he saw the potential, he launched a marketing campaign that completely changed the game for Perrier and the bottled water industry in America. Perrier's American makeover started with TV ads in the spring of 1977. You know what they say, sex sells, and apparently it also sells water. Perrier's ads had a clear message and knew exactly who they were talking to. Well-off baby boomers who were at the time entering adulthood. The ads wanted to make sure that people knew drinking Perrier meant you were sophisticated, classy, and had good taste. It was all about status. Gary Hemphill, the director of research at the Beverage Marketing Corporation, says, "It was a sophisticated way to go to a cocktail party and not drink alcohol. Unlike its sugary, more juvenile counterpart, soda, Perrier positioned itself as the non-alcoholic beverage for grown-ups." Nevins wanted the brand to rest in the sweet spot of being simultaneously aspirational and accessible, so he lowered the price of a 23-ounce bottle from $1.09 to a cheeky 69 cents. It was within the reach of a certain strata of society, but significant enough that buying it still constituted a statement. Snob appeal aside, Perrier also linked their brand with the fitness craze of the late 1970s. With the running boom in full swing, they sponsored the 1977 New York City Marathon, which was quickly gaining popularity. That year, Perrier provided branded shorts and shirts to nearly 5,000 runners. They were clear. If you cared about your health and wanted a natural, refreshing drink, Perrier was the way to go. In 1975, Americans bought 2.5 million bottles of Perrier, but by 1978, they were predicting sales would hit $75 million, and sales kept skyrocketing over the next decade, almost reaching 300 million bottles a year. At one point, it was so popular that it was essentially genericized. Perrier became the go-to name for sparkling water, like how Kleenex was substituted for tissue. Within a few years of Perrier's successful marketing campaign, so many companies were trying to sell their own versions of fizzy water that stores in New York City appeared to be drowning in a sea of carbonated waters, noted the New York Times in April 1983. And history, or drink journalism, repeats itself. In 2019, the Times put out a piece called The Seltzer Bubble, all about how, once again, we found ourselves up to our ears in sparkling beverages. Perrier was not the only beverage company bolstered by its pioneering ad campaign. Its success also inspired a slew of brands to compete for shelf space, including Evian. They took a page out of Perrier's playbook by linking its water to both fitness and sex with this sweaty commercial from 1986. As popular as Perrier had become, by 1990, its foothold in the beverage business proved precarious. No one can stay on top forever. That year, traces of benzene, a carcinogen, were found in samples of Perrier water, forcing the company to carry out a 4-month nationwide recall. Its share of the imported mineral water market dried up from nearly 45% before the contamination to barely more than 20% a year after. This opened the door for Big Soda to enter the big water chat. PepsiCo seized this opportunity, and like any good beverage behemoth, they did the research. But what they found was pretty straightforward. They noticed that customers often bought a bottle of spring water like Perrier, finished it, and then refilled it from the tap. This observation led to a small but important insight. Perhaps the value of bottled water didn't vanish when the water was gone. Maybe the bottle itself had some worth. And this was great news because as a soda maker and distributor, PepsiCo already had the infrastructure to purify and sell tap water. By 1994, they launched Aquafina, America's first purified water bottle brand, aka tap water in a bottle. Soon after, in 1999, Coca-Cola came out with everyone's least favorite bottled water, Dasani, which also came from municipal tap water sources. Dasani went the traditional route by linking its water to health, and Aquafina, on the other hand, pioneered the concept of "Go ahead, girl, give us nothing."
Okay, well, Aquafina promises nothing. Pure nothing. Go ahead, take a sip. It tastes like this. Ooh, hey. Ah. That was refreshing.
Aquafina. So pure, we promise nothing.
This had to be the blueprint for self-aware advertising. This Aquafina commercial walked so Oatly could run. It honestly kind of feels like an SNL parody commercial. But this self-aware, borderline, self-deprecating angle is an anomaly in water marketing. At the end of the day, it's bad for business to remind your customers that they are paying for a product that is essentially free. It's why most water brands continue to sell an aspirational lifestyle while the actual benefits remain ambiguous. This brings me back to Jonathan Cheban and Evian. Back in 2005, an ad executive hired him to get people talking about Evian. He did this by placing it in the hands of some of his most fabulous friends, and I learned this from a Washington Post piece that profiles Cheban in 2005 and illuminates the intersection of celebrity culture and water marketing. It reads, "Glass bottles of Evian water started popping up in some glamorous places last year, and it seemed like there was always a camera nearby to capture the moment. Star Magazine ran a photo of Hilary Swank at some cafe, a bottle of Evian perched on her table. Chris Noth of Sex and the City turned up in the tabloids at an Oscar party chugging away. So did Courtney Cox Arquette and Paris Hilton. Evian sashayed into the glossies too. Hampton Magazine called it the haute water of choice, while Heat Magazine ran a photo of an Evian bottle on a page of beauty tips right next to a shot of Gwyneth Paltrow. Gotham Magazine canonized it in an in-list twice. How did a brand that was being crowded out by competitors and fading suddenly acquire so much celebrity cachet? The short answer is Jonathan Cheban, a 31-year-old New York PR man with great teeth, famous friends, and a gift for manufacturing buzz, one flashbulb moment at a time. For a fee, Cheban will make sure your product lands in the hands of paparazzi magnets such as Paris Hilton, and then in the pages of gossip columns and celebrity magazines. He'll win you mentions in tastemaker publications too, where your product will be name dropped as the latest and the coolest. So basically, because of PR stunts, Evian was positioned as the it water and suggesting that it was the drink of choice for the elite. This created a perception of exclusivity around the product, differentiating it from other bottled waters and reinforcing its premium status. This makes so much sense because growing up, I was an avid reader of the Click books. If you read those books, you know that on like every single page, at least 5 brands were name dropped. It was mostly like designer brands and stuff, and then like whatever, they would offhandedly mention her BlackBerry or her Apple computer. But I also remember in those books, Massey Block, the really rich girl protagonist, would always be drinking Evian water, or she had like some Evian water mist she would spray on her face. And that's like how I knew about that. It works. When consumers see a product tied to celebrities and high-profile events, they often perceive it as more desirable. Cheban's, I hope I'm saying his last name right, sorry if I didn't. Cheban's success with Evian set a precedent for how bottled water brands could leverage celebrity culture to boost their profiles. A couple years later, in 2007, Smartwater followed a similar celebrity-fueled strategy and hired Jennifer Aniston as their spokesperson. Since then, countless stars have used their likeness to endorse bottled water. Zendaya, Gal Gadot, Sydney Sweeney, Haley Steinfeld, Gwyneth Paltrow, Rihanna, Madonna, and Justin Timberlake, who became Bywater's CFO, Chief Flavor Officer. Celebrities are known for being on the forefront of wellness, whatever that means. I'm sure it started out as an actual term to promote health, but it's sort of devolved into this expensive consumerist hellscape that celebrities have capitalized on with brands like Goop, Poosh, and Queef. Just kidding, Queef is not a real brand. Yet. One of the most commonly spouted hacks in the wonderful world of wellness is constant hydration. Being hydrated can't really hurt you, but its benefits tend to be vastly overstated, which I found out from this Decoder Ring podcast episode titled The Invention of Hydration. Essentially, hydration has transformed from a basic biological necessity into a central pillar of wellness culture. Historically, concern about hydration was minimal. Before the 1980s, drinking water was not a focal point of daily life. The prevailing wisdom was to only drink when thirsty. This perspective was common even among athletes. For instance, marathon runners were advised against drinking water during races based on the belief that it would slow them down. The turning point came with the introduction of Gatorade in 1965. Originally developed to address dehydration in athletes, Gatorade not only popularized the concept of hydration, but also began framing dehydration as a serious concern. It's the #1 rule of advertising. If there isn't a problem to be solved, invent a problem to be solved. By sponsoring scientific studies and promoting the idea that even slight dehydration could impair performance, Gatorade established a new standard for athletic and general hydration. But the real game changer was the advent of the PET plastic bottle in 1989. This innovation made both bottled water affordable and convenient, facilitating its rapid adoption. As bottled water became commonplace, the wellness industry expanded, further entrenching the concept of hydration in everyday life. The industry capitalized on the desire for self-improvement and health optimization, offering a range of enhanced waters from mineral to alkaline. The wellness industry's focus on hydration illustrates how marketing can elevate a simple necessity into a desirable lifestyle choice. Products and recommendations, often supported by celebrity endorsements and pseudoscientific claims, have fostered an environment where hydration is seen as critical to overall well-being, even if the scientific evidence is often scant or contradictory. Despite this, the cultural momentum behind hydration remains strong. The mantra of drinking 8 glasses of water a day persists, driven more by marketing and vanity than by necessity. And, if it makes you feel good, do it, but you don't have to. The wellness industry's focus on water perpetuates a cycle of overconsumption and anxiety about proper hydration. And this invention of hydration has led people to do crazy things. Like, remember the guy from the Fire Festival documentary who was fully prepared to suck a customs officer's dick to get a truckload of Evian water?
Will you suck dick to fix this water problem? And I literally drove home, took a shower, I drank some mouthwash.
Before I wrap this up, I do want to say the obvious. Bottled water creates a lot of waste that is not good for the environment. But more importantly, the marketing of bottled water has gotten too good. Big Water has made bottled water so appealing that it's eroded public trust in tap water. Of course, there are some places where it is reasonable to be concerned about the quality of tap water, but 90% of Americans have access to safe drinking water and still 39% drink bottled water. This is a free country, or so I'm told, and people can drink whatever they want. But choosing bottled water has consequences. Sociologist Andrew Sayes argues that it creates a downward spiral. He says the embrace of bottled water reduces pressure on the government to maintain public water infrastructure, which can imperil tap water quality, further weakening trust and accelerating the shift to the private solution of bottled water. While the science supports that most tap water in the US is perfectly fine to drink, unfortunately, Lil Tap doesn't have the money that Big Water has to produce sexy, sleek commercials starring our favorite celebrities. So in the meantime, it's up to normies like me and you to spread the good word that drinking tap water is cool. This is what society would look like if everyone drank tap water. I learned a lot researching this video. Also, this is my second time filming it because, as we all know, I'm technologically challenged, and the first time I filmed this, it was completely out of focus. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on all things water below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! I just